Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope everybody is doing well. So Launchpad के अंदर the life skill, the journey, ये सारे सेशन चल रहे हैं, experts आ रहे हैं, and आज ऐसे expert के साथ हूँ जो मुझे हमेशा लगता है easy for real. So we are going to talk about mergers and acquisitions and valuations and much more. पता है क्यों मैंने बोला easy for real? Let me introduce him first. So I'm talking about Darshan Rathod. He's chartered accountant. He's all India ranker throughout all the levels. Is MBA Finance, XLRI Jamshedpur. So he's a holder of OP Jindal Scholar for 2008. He's chartered alternative investment analyst. So he's done his, this degree from CAIA, USA. He's master's in commerce. So along with 18 years of experience in the field of mergers and acquisition, due diligence and valuation, rather you name it, he'll have it, right? So don't worry about that, what his areas of expertise are. He's a co-founder of Acumen. It is an M&A advisor. So he's a partner with Woodbridge International from USA. Prior to Acumen, he worked with PwC, ENY, and Deutsche Bank Alternative Investment Department. He's a registered valuer, registered with IBBI for asset class securities for financial assets. His sector focus would be business services, chemicals, printing and packaging, hospitality, and healthcare. He's a charter member of TIA Global. Erstwhile co-head. So yeah, this is something I really want to talk about. So he was co-head of some chapter. I mean, we are going to talk about it, that what is this young Indian chapter of Confederation of Indian Industry, so at XLRI. So we are going to talk about it. How about this? And then if this was just not enough, he's a Avid trekker, he's a marathoner, cyclist, regular speaker on topics on M&A, finance, valuation, and he's the co-founder of the Non-Movement. This is the excellent, and just so much of, I don't know. I mean, I really at times, are you for real? I mean, really, you do so many things at such an age. Kaise kar lete ho? So welcome Darshan Rathod on this platform. We really love to have you on such a dynamic and versatile experience you bring to the table. So you'd like to know more about your life journey, how it was, how you shape it up, how you became so much into cycling or marathon or trekking or into XLRI or all throughout the ranker. I mean, ऐसे कुछ दैवी कुछ शक्ति कैसे? How did you manage all of that, right?
Thank you, Saili, for the lovely introduction. Now that you were reading about all of this, it just makes me suddenly feel I'm so old. Although yes, there were quite a few things done, and one interesting message over here is really that in life, not everything is very, very planned, right? A lot of things happen, and then if somebody tries to look back, it seems everything is planned, right? So while it's important to go with the flow, I'll just give some background in terms of why I ended up doing so many things, right? And what's the reason? And it's never late to start something, or I would say it's also never early to start something. And I'll just give you a perspective why exactly I'm mentioning that as well. So let's start with, I'm sure there'll be a lot of CS students out here, right, who would like to actually listen to the story. And so I had an interesting reason why I became a CA. I come from a family of Marwadis, right? And in Marwadis, you typically see people either doing trading or they are in the field of finance.
Right.
So interestingly, my father is a CA himself. He's been practicing for the last 35, 40 years. And my elder brother ended up becoming a computer engineer. And then he has actually now specialized into mathematics, and he's a scientist. So for me, I mean, it was less of a choice, more of a, somebody had to, sit through, the father's practice, right? And that was the reason why I had to end up doing CS. It was not out of a choice, very frankly. And that's where the story started, right? I was really forced into, becoming a CA in that aspect. While I was doing CA, of course, one of the things that you mentioned was about getting an all India ranks throughout, right? And honestly, a lot of that credit I would give to two people, right? Two set of people. One, of course, is my family. I think they were extremely supportive whenever it came to education, and I think that helps and matters a lot. There was utter sincerity in terms of them making sure that I do not get disturbed anywhere. utter sincerity in terms of ensuring that I have all the right things, where I can focus on my education, right? And I think the more important element, in terms of getting through with good marks is also getting through a right set of friends. And I think it matters a lot, especially when you're doing CA, in terms of who you hang out with, right? And I was very fortunate that we were, a bunch of about 10 to 12. In fact, Saili, you might be knowing most of them. And we all, we had our share of fun while we were doing CA, but, of course, because we missed college days, right, when we were doing CA. But we also ensured that when it came to studies, I think we were extremely serious and focused. And we did have a lot of group sessions. We used to understand a lot of concepts together. And of course, there was a lot of collaboration rather than competition whenever we came to becoming CA. And I think that I would rate that as, these two are the top two reasons why, I ended up doing CA and, with the right, elements. And of course, getting through with flying colors, very frankly, that is a third attribute, and that is because of my extreme fear of failure. So I used to go to the extreme to an extent where, I will completely sacrifice every little element in life, just ensuring that I have to get through. And that was like one single focus. So, so that's really there's a combination of the three elements. And I think coming into merit more than an aim, I think it was just a byproduct which just came out of these three factors. Having said that, then of course, when you do a CA, you always wonder, what do you want to do right after that? And when I became a CA, I realized that, my father was into tax consulting, and he used to work with a lot of individual and small business houses. And I realized that that's something which I explored for a while, and I realized that's not my cup of tea, right? I felt like I wanted to do something more, and my father was very supportive in that aspect. So, so I ended up working with a couple of global consulting firms for about 4 years. And it definitely gave me an exposure in terms of what are the best practices. But then there were also a few pitfalls, right? In terms of what kind of exposure I was getting, how much real value addition which we are giving to clients. And in that process, Saili, in those 3-4 years, what I realized was, of course, CA is a very, very important foundation. But I realized that my personality is more on, I was a very people-oriented person. And that was where another decision of doing my MBA, because I want to expose myself to more, a wider range of, subjects and elements. And that's where I ended up doing my MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. And I think they were one of the best 2 years of my life, of course, because I also compensated my lack of, enjoying college while doing CA. But apart from that, I think there were two very specific elements which were very, very critical, which I learned at XLRI. And of course, there are 100 things you learn, right? But some things leave an impact for life, right? And I think that one particular thing was the ability of taking risk. I started my first entrepreneurship venture when I was in XLRI, and it was maybe I missed out updating you about it. So that was my first venture, and it failed. And I failed miserably in that. But what learnings you get out of failure are also something very, very beautiful. I mean, so the idea was we were trying to do some handicrafts related online platform for handicrafts. And I think India has a lot of potential. And that was the whole idea of startup called Parichay. And we did get 2 rounds of funding to that. And we were very, very aggressively promoting it. We had a lot of designers coming in. I think it was a phenomenal thing. And for XYZ reasons, the startup failed. So one, like I said, entrepreneurship is something which, the risk-taking ability is something I learned. And number 2, I think more importantly, very Saili, what I learned at XLRI was the entire importance of looking at anything what we do in life, not just from a monetary or an economic perspective, but also from a social point of view. And I think these 2 elements were, they left a very, very lasting impact. And I have the benefit of hindsight because now it's 15 years and I can talk about a lot of things, right? Rather than building a story, right? I can talk about a real story about what has happened over the last 15 years, what's transpired. And here's where it turned out to be. I mean, the moment I came back from XLRI, I was fortunate to start business with my best friend. And we're doing business together. We're doing M&A consulting for the last 15 years, almost 14 years now together. And I think we're building it brick by brick. And, it's about, we are running a team of 26 people right now. And I think somewhere a lot of things which were missed out in the global consulting firms. Those are the kind of practices, those are the kind of exposures we are trying to build in-house in our firm to ensure that the learnings are maximum and we add as much value as we can for every assignment and engagement we take with clients. So that's broadly on the my journey till now, and a couple of things if you want me to cover about what investment banking is, what valuations is, what is due diligence. I can briefly touch upon it for a minute or two, and then maybe we can get into specific questions. Right? Is that okay? All right. So as fancy as it may sound, Saili, even I found it very, very fancy when I was doing my CA about this whole concept of investment banking as it used to. There was a time when it used to be called merchant banking, investment banking, corporate finance. These are very, very fancy words, M&A consultancy, and I was always, very blown over by such, fancy words. And I said, I think I want to be a high flying person and I want to get into something like consulting, right? And especially in M&A related consulting. And so that was a dream and desire of a 23-year-old, trying to see, what change we can do, right? And of course, one thing I knew at that point in time that I'd rather be part of an organization which is small and make a larger impact rather than being part of a very large organization and make a minimal impact, right? So that was pretty, I was clear about that. And I was, again, fortunate that I had my co-founder also with similar thought process. And that's when we joined hands and we said, hey, you know what? It's great. We're doing entrepreneurship. It's definitely risky. We started when Lehman Brothers collapsed, 2009. And there was absolute, the market was at the lowest at what it can be. And so we said, let's still try and create an impact, right? And that's where we slowly built it out. And what really we started off with, Saili, today we might talk about, working on 200, 300 transactions till now. But of course, there are always these initial 3 to 5 years of struggle, right? Whenever we get into consulting, because the first question a client will ask you is, what's your experience, right? And then you again come back to the chicken and egg story, right? Hey, you know what? Unless you give me some work, how can I tell somebody else that I've worked in this particular domain, right?
How did you break the circle?
So honestly, the way we broke the circle was we ended up doing quite a few works for minimal cost or even free of cost, right? We said, give us an opportunity, right? I'm not going to charge you, right? I mean, that's the best I can do, right? And we'll do the best of work, right, for you. And that's where a few clients started building confidence. Then there were some previous relationships we had. We said that just throw in work at us and we'll just do it. And you can decide the price later. You can decide the value later. You can decide everything later. So that's, I think, those initial struggles, right, where we actually get into these elements of, how do you break that chicken and egg story? Not everybody has to go through that, but I think we were too young and, we had to go through that kind of pain.
Really have this trap.
It does. So in terms of M&A, if I have to explain, right? So of course there is anybody who has an analytical mindset, right? Somebody who can see through something which looks beautiful, right? I think see through trends without really getting into Excel sheets. Just look at the financials and have that, initial gut, that something doesn't look right, and then something I need to look more, and then actually go more deeper and then understand, break away from where the stream is flowing, right? If people have that mindset, I think consulting, or for the matter, M&A advisory is something which I would recommend if people want to do. And number two, I think more importantly, a lot of people need to be aware of is that M&A consulting is also a lot of soft skills required, right? In terms of talking to people, reading through body language, understanding what your client is requiring, understanding where, a particular buyer or a seller will break, understanding, where is that you think that there's a bridge for a value. So all of those things, right? So it is, one thing is definitely what we learn through numbers. The other thing is a lot of this emotional element, right? So then I could say the IQ plus EQ, right? Both need to be very strong to be in a consulting business, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to understand that in a consulting business, a client comes to you with a problem and you can't just keep talking about the problem. And he comes to you with the problem because he wants a solution from you, right? And that's what it is, right? I mean, you understand and you give them that confidence, that maybe you may not have the answer right away. So it's not like you're taking an interview and you have to give the best answer to him right away, right? You have to just build that confidence in him that, hey, you know what, you have a problem and I understand your problem, and we'll get to a solution and we'll get to a right, element when we'll be able to address your issue. So I think investment banking is that, like I said, and of course, there is a lot of painful process of research, and a lot of painful process of not very exciting things about, calling up people, trying to find out some basic, Google searching and, database hunting and hundreds of other things, which is very, very monotonous and extremely boring. But of course, if you see light at the end of the tunnel, that how much impact you make when you close a transaction, if people have that wherewithal to actually stay through a transaction for a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 years it takes to close a transaction. If somebody has that patience and to work in a very unstructured environment, right? So it's not like you're giving an audit checklist that these are the 10 things and you tick mark each of them and then you're fine, you do your audit report and sign it off. This is a very, very unstructured environment. And if people are excited about, thinking in an unstructured environment, not a lot of people have that mindset, no? That plus you have to be a people person. It is important that understand emotions, understand people, understand pain points. And of course, the analytical mindset goes without saying, right? I mean, that's the reason why, we excel in M&A advisory, right? We as in the CA community, whoever gets into investment banking. So that's broadly what it is. And if I want to just touch upon a little bit about valuation, whatever, Sally, we learn as valuation, right? In theory, right? It is good for clearing exams. At the end of the day, it's very simple. What is value, right? It is purely something where you have a willing buyer and a willing seller shaking hands on something, right? That is the real value, right? And a lot of times, the value is really dependent on who is more desperate, right? If the buyer is more desperate, the value goes up. If the seller is more desperate, the value goes down. So it's primarily that, right? I mean, of course, we can always build logic behind it, try to create a lot of science behind it. Let's build a discounted cash flow. Let's do comparable multiples. At the end of the day, even if you look at comparable multiples of 25 deals, the range which you'll be looking at will be somewhere between 3 to 25x, right? And then you come somewhere to a median using a bell curve, right? But at the end of the day, people also have to understand that there are deals which have happened in the similar space at 3 times also, and there are deals which have happened in the similar space at 25 times also, right? So that's really what valuation is, right? If I have to put it in a nutshell, right, in terms of what investment banking is, what mergers and acquisitions is, what valuation is, and of course another element is due diligence, and we do more of financial due diligence, and that is to, even if companies have done audits, right, there's a reason to do financial diligence to understand more of, in a one line, if I have to explain what is due diligence, I think it is to make the investor or the buyer understand the sustainability of the business, right? Whether it is in terms of the profitability or whether it is in terms of the asset quality, right? So primarily that is what you give a judgment on, right? Through a lot of analysis. That's what financial diligence is. So broadly, that's on the work side, and happy to take any specific questions, Hailey. I hope I was not too long.
No, that was really required, because as a fresher, when I heard such word, okay, mergers and acquisition, so I'm not really sitting in the table doing this mergers and acquisition. There's a back end, there's a lot more, number crunching. There are some escrows, representations, target indemnification. Then there are several and joint liabilities. Then there are closing conditions. There's so many things, like, we need to understand this financial statement. So so thank you for breaking that myth that, okay, M&A is like you are directly going there and doing this M&A. As a fresher, I'm sorry. That is not something that you would be able to get in. But of course, you will get through it once you get into the back end work, and then you understand and, kind of improvise on your acumen, that how it really being shaped up. So that's really on mergers and acquisitions. So what your take would be, Darshan, that, as a student, where we are like young members, what should we really try inculcating in ourselves in order to get such kind of roles? Or where do you think there is a miss, or it shouldn't have been done, or it should have been done? What is that? So Penny, for your thoughts, please.
Understood. So Sally, let me just put it again. I like to talk with real examples, right, rather than being very philosophical about any particular question being asked, right? So let me step back in terms of when we take interviews, right? When we are actually interviewing people. Interestingly, we are always excited to work with a lot of fresh blood, right? We are not really looking at people, especially with experience. And, Sally, even if somebody comes with a background experience in, let's say, investment banking or financial diligence or valuation also for that matter, you'll be surprised. None of our interviews are anything technical or their understanding of what investment banking or mergers and acquisitions is, or valuations or diligence. See, because that's something which I'm going to teach you, right? So, you will learn. They'll be learning on the job. And all of them, there's a team of 26. Everybody's had different experiences. They'll obviously they will learn learning on the job. What really is lacking, Saili, in terms of whenever you're taking interviews, right? Most of the times, what we've seen is that people miss out on the most basic concepts, and that's what is very disheartening, right? In the whole rush of clearing exams, right? We see that there is so much of the way the education is actually getting shaped up, right? It's about how do you crack your CA exams, right? And I've seen it over the last 20 years, right? I mean, I was doing my CA classes. I started in 2002, right? It was 20 years back. And I see there were, I think in Pune, there were 1 or 2 classes of chartered accountancy, right? Which were popular. And what you see today, it's like a cutthroat competition. You see buses, actually, there are advertisements on the buses, right? In terms of, ki aap CA exam crack karna hai to, come to me. Right. So, I mean, of course, there's a reason to that, right? There is definitely a lot of market and all of that, right? And I'm not criticizing or appreciating any aspect, right? But my point is, in the whole, and see, the professor is also doing something with an objective, right? It's important that people clear the CA exams. I'm not denying that that's not important. But students need to understand that a very critical element is also about not losing understanding of your basics. And when we, Sally, even chartered accountants with even 3-year experience, if they come to us for an interview, you'll be surprised. Our first question is on the P&L, balance sheet and cash flow. We just put that out, I mean, a P&L and a balance sheet. And we just ask them to read through the P&L and balance sheet and just comment on the operating cash flow of that business, right? Just as simple as that. That's the first question. And unfortunately, Sally, now it can't get more basic than P&L, balance sheet and cash flow, right? With somebody with a 3-year CA experience, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
I second
if
that.
I have to go, if I have to go more basic, I have to go into journal entries and, but we are not doing accounting jobs, right? We are chartered accountants, right? So now, Sally, you'll be surprised. 3 out of 5 chartered accountants are not able to answer something as basic as cash flow statements. How do you actually end up coming into a cash flow statement? Now, that is something which disappoints us. And if I have to give you some statistics, right? Whenever we open up a vacancy, right, in our firm, and we typically get about 50 to 60 applications for a particular vacancy. And because of XYZ questions we ask, we probably end up shortlisting about 20-25 out of them. Our first line team, they do interviews about these 15-20 people and 20-25 people, and then probably give us, Weber and I, we end up taking interviews about 4 or 5. Typically, out of these 5, we end up finding one candidate worthy of coming in. And the reason, again, is, Saili, we are not trying to ask people anything about mergers and acquisitions or or valuations, right? No question is asked about what are the different approaches, what is international valuation standards, what are the methodologies, how will you value intangible assets. See, all of this can be theoretically read through, right? But if a person has common sense and if a person understands basic reading of financial statements, is absolutely something which is like it's a no-go, right? If somebody cannot read through a simple financial statements, it's an absolute no-go. Forget about how I can train you, right? If you cannot get to your basics. So that is the statistics I'm talking about. Out of 60, I end up getting one candidate. And it is purely, I'm telling you, Saili, we just try to understand on the most basic concepts. My second question is always to people on working capital. What's their understanding of working capital, right? People are not able to differentiate between what is a positive working capital and negative working capital. Can you imagine? Now that's what makes you feel questioned, right? Why is it happening the way it is happening, right? Why? And
right.
So
what were you doing at that
rethinking.
No,
There's
of
a
course.
rethinking required. Yeah. So
There's all Gana Bajana atmosphere will not help you in your professional life. That's the strong message.
exactly.
What Darshan, I mean, what I can derive it from his conversation, that you can't be just casual about it. Ki, haan, ho jayega. No, I mean, it is as basic as he said. It is as basic as getting your facts right, getting understand that again, he's not going deep dive or granular level about what is M&A and what is this. He's just expecting from us that we have to have some basic understanding, read through it. Romancing with balance sheet is what we always call, and if you're not doing that, then it's something is really alarming, right? And that's the reason why we have such sessions, so that it is like whistleblower for them, that whatever they are doing in their student life, or they're about to become a member or something. So what aspects they really need to fine tune with, it is there. It is just about making it more effective, or making it more relatable is what I think, Darshan. So that's about it. And Darshan, I really want to know more about this non-movement which you started, and what is it about, and your startup stint, right? So I am sure you have more than 10 or 12 startup stints. Like Provilag is one that I am aware of. So tell us about that. How did you find it? So in order to get into invested or something that sort.
Sure. So see, Sally, another, I think just a short message, right? In terms of investments, we've seen through three ups and down cycles of the stock market, right? Over the last 15, 20 years, right? Now, I think another short message, if it's palatable, right, to the audience, right? We see a lot of excitement of the young generation of making quick money, right? And it's people need to understand that luck plays such a big factor in life, in every single time in life. I think that generally comes only after they go through a cycle of 2 decades. I think that's when they realize the importance of luck, right? Now, not just in investments, right? In general in life, right? I mean, I think there is a lot of element of luck which people tend to overlook. People who actually end up getting lucky get overconfident, and people who actually do not get that luck tend to actually undermine themselves. Now, so I personally feel that if people are interested in stock markets, it's important that then they build their career in stock markets, right? Not because it's very easy to get carried away where somebody, that because of WhatsApp and all of these things, right? Somebody is putting on WhatsApp all the time, hammering, hey, you know what, I picked up this stock and it's gone up 20%, upper circuit every single day. And then there's this fear of missing out, right? Hey, you know what, I should have picked up this stock. And then they end up picking up the stock where it's already overvalued. You look at what happened to IRCTC, right? You look at what happened to so many other stocks, right? I mean, I can't pick up, I think I can talk about 20 other stocks like these, right? Now, that is something which people need to avoid, right? If they want to do stock market investment, right? Build your career in that, right? Because that is where you require 24/7 attention, right? To a lot of elements, right? Not the fundamentals also, but on the technical side as well. In terms of how I look at investments, see, one is my investments are mostly through mutual funds, because I think I'm a very, very lazy investor. So I do not want to care about timing the market. I do not want to care about ups and downs. I'm not an expert in investments. Even if we do merger and acquisition, people think that if you're into M&A, you are an expert in stock picking, and it's an absolutely wrong assumption people have. I make all my investments through mutual funds, number one. Number two, if I am at all making investments in startups, like you mentioned, so Sally, I have a very simple criteria. So I've also we all learn the hard way, right? Failures and bad experiences are important in life because they teach you a lot of things. So I've burned a lot of money in this entire FOMO concept of startup investments as well. So personally speaking, I have 10 startups which I had invested in. Most of them were from IIT Mumbai, IIT Bombay. The founder was from IIT Bombay. And of course, in the whole fire of, let's invest because somebody else is also investing, in that excitement, invested in these such 10 startups, and all of them today the value is absolute zero. Having said that, what my learning from this entire concept is, right, that it's not like I'm going to be completely negative about it, right? What I learned is that So there is two types of investors, right? A lot of people say that, you should invest in 12, 10 or 15, 20 startups, and usme se one startup will give you 100x returns, right? Well, there are people who make money out of that also, but I'm of the opinion, and I like to make investments where I know the founders personally, right? I know the founders personally, and I can have some influence in his way of thinking, and he's responsible to me, right? So that's my very, very clear criteria. I'd rather put, if I have a basket of 10 for investment, I'd rather put 6 in a particular investor, in a particular startup where I know the founder personally, and I'm not saying I'll influence, but I can get real-time feedback from him, right? And if at all there is a need for some corrective action, the promoter is open enough to have that conversation with me. So my business also gives me access to a lot of entrepreneurs who have built businesses, solid businesses, right? 100 crore, 1,000 crore, 2,000 crores, and a lot of them also end up doing IPOs at a point in time. So my preferred investments are, of course, there is one portion of equity which you invest through mutual funds, and the other preferred portion for me on investment is invest in startups where you know the promoters, you understand the business. So I'll not invest in a startup which is into robotic automation or something, right? Because I just don't understand. I don't understand if that guy is talking a 5-year-old technology or he's talking about the latest technology, right? I have absolutely no clue about it. I'll invest in a startup which I understand the business and I know the promoters. Or number two, I'll invest in any preferential allotment if I get an opportunity for any of my clients, where they have opened it for friends and family, and if there is an exposure I can get to take, where I can make an exit during the IPO. So these are, I think, because again, the other good part over there is you automatically become long-term investors, right? Because daily you don't have the worry of a daily stock rate, right, of those particular investments. So that's broadly on the investment side. And you talked about non-movement, right? Yeah. So let me touch upon a little bit about what non-movement is. Very frankly, not trying to take any credit in terms of starting a movement or anything. Taking small little steps, which a couple of things in life which have shaped us, right? And fortunate to be born in a particular, I would say, in a particular culture where there were 3 elements since childhood have been very influential on me. And of course, with this experience of XLRI I mentioned, right, on the social element, right? I think that it's a combination of a couple of things, right? And you realize that one of the things which when I started discussing, right, saying that it is never too late to start something, and also it's never too early to start something as well, right? So we cannot really think about giving back to the society in a particular way only when we turn 60 years old, right? I mean, suddenly when you realize that you've done everything, and then you realize a lot of it is for no reason, right? I mean, you'll end up losing out on relationships, you end up losing out on so many other things, right? So as a child, right, I mean, being born in a Jain family, right, the philosophy of Jainism, 3 elements of that which influenced me a lot. And obviously this is not a religious sermon, right, but it's about it's about the philosophy of ahimsa, anekantvad, and aparigraha, right, if I have to explain. So what is ahimsa is, I think everybody understands. I think Gandhiji made it very popular. In fact, a lot of what he popularized, he was also influenced by a very, very influential Jain monk when Gandhiji was in Gujarat. And so ahimsa, that element, a lot of the non-violence element came out of that. So not that I'm taking any credit of India's independence because of Jainism, but I'm just saying, that non-violence is the basic tenet on which Jainism, it's the philosophy of Jainism, not really the religion Jainism, right? It's based on. The other element is anekantvad, which is multiplicity of opinions. So if I have to see how the world is now adopting anekantvad is, let's look at the way we are all talking about diversity and inclusion, right? D&I, there's so much of discussion around it. Now, what is D&I, right? Just step back. D&I is nothing but anekantvad, right? Looking at it from everybody's perspective, right? One perspective which we have, so let me put it up with an example, right? I think a lot of people would have heard about this beautiful story about 6 blind men and an elephant, right? So imagine 6 blind men are touching different parts of an elephant, and if you ask them to describe, right, the person who will touch, the tail will talk that it's a snake. The person who will touch the foot, the foot, he might say that it's a it's a tree, right? The person who touches, the ears will say that it's a fan, the earlier fans which used to have, right? So each one is right in his own way, right? And that's his or her perspective. Now, what Anekantwad really says is that it's everybody has a particular view, and there is nothing wrong or right. Everybody is giving a view from their point of view. And I think what diversity and inclusion really comes about is something similar to this, right? We have to be empathetic. We have to empathize with, not sympathize with people and their issues, but show empathy in terms of, going in the other person's shoe and seeing what problem or issue they're facing and try to see if you can get to a solution about it. So that's Anekantwad. Then of course, the third one is Aparigraha, is about non-materialism. Of course, it's easy to just talk about fancy words, but if you see, there's a lot of trend going on about minimal living, minimalism, in the West and all of that, right? So
is that a reason for the gray shirt?
Well, yes. Well, yes. So one of the things which I've thought of adopting, making life a little simpler, is wearing only gray shirts, so that you don't have to really waste more time shopping. I'm not saying I have to wear something. I don't want to be an ascetic, of course, because my profession will not allow me that. But I need not wear fancy shirts to make myself feel good about every single day, right? So that's a way of actually try to control materialism in a particular manner. So these are the elements, right? And the non-movement is to do with that. It's nothing which I have started or anything. It's just trying to build some awareness around it. And I don't want it to be a movement which I have started, or it's just something which I, want to be a catalyst to spread this as much as we can and see that there is more and more adoption towards it. So that's something which, I'm a little passionate about. And
so talking about passions, it will not be completed. We need to talk about cycle. We need to talk about marathon. We need to talk about baby Eva. She's just 7 years old, people. And I'm sure 12 plus more treks she must have done by now. And she's run marathon with him, traveled some 1,000 kilometers with him. I mean, please, let it just be from you.
Right. So one of the elements, like I said, see, luck plays a big factor, right? And I think it's important that people do understand and appreciate these elements in life, right? I think one of the big luck we have in life is, I think my father and my mother also, I mean, in a lot of ways, right? They've sacrificed so much because obviously they lived life in absolute minimal environment, right? And I think I find myself extremely fortunate with the fact that there is so much which is readily available, from what my parents actually gave sacrifices on, right? Now, I think the one element which I always longed for and I missed out was, I felt that my folks did not spend enough time with me, right? And that's one of the key elements which I thought, at least my daughter should not feel, that, I haven't had the time when my father had the energy, right? See, it's no point in spending time when I'm 60 years old with my daughter and she's excited and I say, you know what, I don't think I'm of that particular energy levels, right? So with that, Eva, interestingly, early on, I'm a pretty outdoor person. I like running outside. I love doing marathons. I think it just frees up. That's my way of meditation, very frankly, So unfortunately, I've not been able to sit quietly and, learn meditation. But for me, meditation comes when I'm out and I'm running and my thoughts are very, very streamlined, so to say. And I saw the beauty of that, right? It helps in a lot of elements at work. So running, like I said, started off with all of this, and then slowly built my interest in cycling, long distance cycling. So started with in 2009. I went for 1,000 kilometer cycling over 6 days, across the entire forest of Nilgiris. So, so what I like about these things, right? Fitness and, even reading for that matter, I think these elements, right? When you're traveling also, they open up so much of perspectives for us, right? And again, going back to the philosophy, right? Anekantwad, it's important that we understand perspectives. And I think these elements all come together, put together. I think it just make us more humble in terms of not be arrogant about what we achieve, not be arrogant about, what we have. Because tomorrow something might just go wrong and we might just have nothing left, right? So make the most of the present moment. And somewhere there is also one of the books I read about Stoicism. If people are interested in reading, there's a beautiful book by Marcus Aurelius, It's called Meditations. And I think it talks about Stoicism and how, a Roman emperor actually ended up managing a chaotic Roman Empire through Stoicism, right? So, so elements like these, right? It just makes you realize that there is so much more you are not aware of. There's so much more in this world which you do not know. And I think that's where, the entire desire every single day to come out and learn more things and learn more and do more, right? So it's not like after 20 years of experience, I feel that, I'm like, the go-to person for anything. I think every single day from every young element, every young person I interact with, there is so much more to learn. So I like the energy levels, but I just feel that the energy needs to channelize properly. So with Eva, she's done, Sally, 35 treks till now. So yeah, and so she's pretty much, and a very, very enthusiastic avid trekker. For the last 3 years, we've been trekking very, very regularly, and she also loves the outdoors. And this last December, we also ended up, doing a beautiful 1,200-kilometer motorcycling across the mountains of Uttarakhand. And I was fortunate enough for my daughter also to be excited to sit on the motorcycle with me, and we did. She didn't do the entire 1,200 kilometers with me, but about 200-300 kilometers she was sitting through, and we had the joy of spending time just with each other, right? And I think that also is very, very meditative to me. Time spending with my daughter also is extremely meditative. So I
And
might have a selfish
that's when
motive
I
here.
said, where are you taking her? That temperature. And they say, what, it's just 1,200 kilometers. I said, what? So,
Yeah.
and that's how, I'm just inarticulate. I cannot put up in the words that what I have been derived throughout this conversation. Definitely this one is for my keepsakes. I'll keep on listening to more and more, and such conversations, people. So that was all about Darshan. That not really one part of this is what you are seeing is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more with him. I would love to bring him on the platform on and off. We will talk more about it. So now you must have got it right, that a plethora of knowledge, we cannot cover it in like just 40 minutes. So Darshan, I had a great time conversing with you, and there's so many aspects, so many elements that we've touched based on. And anything like the ending note that you would like to share with us?
I think one of the not that I thought through this, but one of the things which I always use in my own life, right? We see everybody goes through a lot of ups and downs, and sometimes we have mentors to actually guide us through a painful element or a very exciting element, right? And I'm very, very influenced by this one particular statement which says, "This too shall pass." And the beauty of this statement is that you can use this statement even in an absolute low time in your life, and you can use this statement in an absolute high time in your life. So when you are not, say for example, if somebody is not cleared their CA exams, all they have to think about is this too shall pass, right? And not be so upset and make this such a big deal out of it. And the same statement can be if somebody is coming out with absolute flying colors, first rank, everything, all India ranking. The moment again, if you look at the statement, this too shall pass. Just don't stay in a high moment, right? This will also pass, and you have to again get ready for more struggles in life. So that's if that helps in an ending note, I'd like to end with that. Yeah.
How I feel that this shouldn't be passed. Like it should be there. We should keep talking to you like that. So yes, that was a beautiful note to wrap up the session. And thank you so much for being here. It was
Thank
an
you, Sally, for
absolute
inviting me.
pleasure, and so knowledgeable. Like every sentence made me think, oh really? Yes. I mean, so back in I was on mute, but yes, I was affirming, nodding. Yes, yeah, absolutely right. So that was the beauty of it, right? So thank you once again, and people, I'll see you in the next episode with such versatile personalities where you can get so much of energy and inspiring stories. So stay tuned, and we shall meet on the next episode. Thanks.
Thank you.